Control debate is back at the Minnesota Capitol today. Two bills that would restrict access are up for a sudden vote before a Minnesota House committee. The legislature is controlled by Republicans, which of course, in the past anyway, made it tough for any gun control legislation to even be discussed. Today, one House rep is using a little-known rule to make it happen. Pretty clever. DFL State Rep Dave Pinto of St. Paul backing two bills that he got before the House Public Safety Committee. One would expand background checks to include every gun sold or transferred in our state. The other would allow family members to curb people from getting their hands on a gun temporarily. Discussion expected to start around 10:15 this morning. But first, we talk about it here on Mid-Morning with WCCO Chief Political Reporter Pat Kessler. Hey, Pat.
Hey, good morning.
Uphill battle for sure, right? Republican Speaker of the House, Kurt Daudt. He has said he doesn't, I guess the typical thing Republicans have always said, that they don't think a law would prevent mass shootings.
Yeah, Republicans and some Democrats also say that this would not have prevented these mass shootings. If assault weapons were banned and this young man in Florida could not have gotten one, perhaps it would have prevented that. But that's an argument we hear all the time. These bills are a little bit different than that. One of the important bills we'll hear today is the red flag bill, some mechanism for family members to alert police, alert the authorities if someone actually is dangerous, and can police then get some sort of order to come and get their guns. That's something they're talking about. But there is a lot of these gun control measures which will not pass this legislature, including an assault weapons ban, even if people here think they would like that. So the Speaker's right about that, but other bills might have a chance here.
Pat, President Donald Trump surprised Republicans and Democrats yesterday. He pushed for several measures that would strengthen gun control, including tighter background checks, a higher age limit. He even said that lawmakers who don't agree fear the NRA. Were you surprised by this move?
I really was surprised, and I saw Amy Klobuchar sitting directly across the table from him, drinking water when he said some things like gulp. A lot of people could not believe that the president was saying some of the things he did. There was an impression, as impressive as this is, and we've talked about this before, when the president opens up these negotiating sessions, they're fascinating. Give him credit for doing this. But he seemed to be all over the place. We don't know exactly where the president stands, and he even did propose going in and confiscating guns first, and then going back and due process
from like
later.
Someone accused of domestic violence, for example, that they would take the gun first and then do the hearing.
Or mental illness.
Or mental.
And
I think a lot of Americans probably hear this stuff, people who haven't maybe spent their life thinking about gun control, and you think, like, I don't know, maybe that makes sense. Is that kind of where the president is, Pat? Where he hasn't spent his life thinking about gun control. This is all new to him.
We don't know where the president stands, and that's what was maddening for the Republicans and Democrats at that meeting yesterday. They kept trying to press him on where do you stand, and on one day he might believe this, or this, or this, but an hour later or a day later he believes something, says something completely different. Now, remember when President Obama was elected, the Republicans were saying, he's going to take away your guns. President Trump actually said he would come and confiscate guns without due process. So this is boiling in the Capitol, and I'm beginning to wonder, despite all of this controversy, whether they'll do anything at all, because it just doesn't seem to be leadership anywhere there.
Yeah. Pat, your reality check last night, it was about a claim by some gun advocates that in the state, there are the guns are responsible for more deaths than opioids or car crashes. So what did you find?
Well, that was really interesting to me when we heard this from some of the gun control advocates, that in fact they're saying, why don't we study gun deaths, gun violence deaths, the same way we study opioids. Opioids a big deal here at the Capitol today, or car crashes. And in fact, it's true. There were 432 deaths from gun violence in 2016, 395 from opioids, 392 from car crashes. Here's the interesting thing about this. 332 of those gun violence deaths were suicides. So people have access to guns, they have a mental health issue, and then they do violence to themselves. So this is something that a lot of people are talking about. Is there a way to restrict access to guns for people who have mental health issues.
Sure.
It's really interesting and very controversial. A lot of pushback from our viewers on this who think that suicides don't represent gun violence, just gun homicides do. But the CDC considers gun suicides also
as part of that, under that same umbrella.
No question, access to a gun, being able to buy a handgun makes you more likely to have success, if not to use the word success, but when you're talking about a suicide.
You can accomplish that, a suicide. 77% of gun violence deaths are suicide.
All right. You great job laying out the facts, and then people have to figure out what to do with it. Pat, thank you.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks.